Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of the PR from the Heart Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. To be precise, we have reached episode number 18. That is the 18th trolley stop here at PR from the Heart in the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. My name is John Massalonis with PR from the Heart, joined each and every month. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely, long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. And David, it's hard to believe, but the summer has almost officially come to its natural conclusion. And you know what that means? Not only do we hear the trolley, but I also hear a school bell in the yonder distance. So this is a special bookcast that's chock full of goodness for the back to school season for children, parents, families, and educators.
That's right. I'm glad to be here with our, one of my favorite toys as a child were cars and trucks that I played with. And the book we're going to talk about is Ethan's Truck Learning Adventure. That's the first one, right?
That is correct. And before we dive into the pages of our first book here on the August edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, if you are new to the Bookcast, David and I, each and every month, we deliver new heartfelt reviews for the newest children's books from the shining stars in the kidlit community right here at PR from the Heart. And yes, if you have missed our previous 17 episodes, where has this time gone? We are now officially the age of 18 in terms of Bookcast episodes, that is. So if you haven't had the opportunities to do so, you can check out PR from the Heart's official website, prfromtheheart.com, along with PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel, that is youtube.com/prfromtheheart, and enjoy our previous trolley stops as well. If this message of the back to school season, if you might be a little disappointed, that's okay, but we sense that there's more excitement in the air for the back to school season than sadness or disappointment, even though it is kind of sad when the summer comes to its natural conclusion. We encourage you, if you haven't had the opportunities to do so, to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel, as that is one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for PR from the Heart and for the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. And also, right off the bat, we want to give a tip of the cap to our favorite neighbors out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the wonderful team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. They are the Pittsburgh chapter of the largest national non-for-profit children's literacy organization in the United States. Now, did you know that last year alone that they provided more than 100,000 children's books to over 23,000 children in need? So the focus of Reading is Fundamental. They provide children's books, developmental resources, and educational tools to children that come from low-income families. So we are proud to support with a monthly donation to the team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. We encourage you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, if you feel guided to do so, especially with the back to school season now here and the holiday season on the horizon. The team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh does wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, and families that come from low-income neighborhoods in the Pittsburgh area. No donation is too large. No donation is too small. You can head on over to rifpittsburgh.org/donate. We've also included that link in the description below as well, too. And tell them that the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast sent you in the process. So yes, David, I am really looking forward to this. Maybe if there's really one word that I could describe these books, in addition to that, these being perfect back to school reads, both of the books that we're going to be sharing, they're very colorful. Not only colorful in terms of the illustration, but they have a lot of colorful and heartfelt vibes as well too. So the trolley is actually heading out. Of course, we start off each and every month going from San Diego to Pittsburgh because that's where you're located. But then we head south down to Tampa, Florida, and C. Jordan has released her brand new children's book inspired by her little boy, Ethan, which you had alluded to previously, Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures. So if your little one enjoys Tonka trucks or garbage trucks or dump trucks, and growing up, I was a big Tonka kid on my end of things. The little yellow cement truck was my own personal choice back in the day. But if your little ones love trucks, boy, this is going to be a magical adventure for your little ones, David.
Yes. So shall we jump into the start the truck?
Yes, let's start at the top, the forefront, and the onset, David. Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures by C. Jordan.
Well, the story opens with the first page being a picture of Ethan in his room standing amid all of his toy trucks. There's a garbage truck, as you said, and fire truck and so forth. And Ethan says, "Hello, my name is Ethan, and today we're going to learn about trucks." Now, if I were younger, 5, 6, I'd be delighted to hear that, because I love trucks and cars and anything toy, miniature I could play with. At any rate, the first toy or the truck that he shows is his fire truck, and explains you can call a fire truck in a case of an emergency. Ethan describes it. They're usually painted red, he said. Has the ladders and the siren and water hose and lights, and the firefighter uses the water to put out the fire. Now, as you're reading this, if you're reading this book to a child, you could, after you say the where's the ladder, where's the so forth, it can be very interactive as you read the book along. And each page has Ethan being part of the story. In this, he's in a firefighter suit, and in a way, he's pretending in his room. He's pretending he's a firefighter, and pretending is such an important part of growing up. It's been said that pretending is a child's work. Mm-hmm. That's what they're and this book really encourages that, I think. Well, the next truck is a pickup. Ethan is shown in the illustrations moving his rock collection. And the next page, as you mentioned earlier, was a cement truck, and explaining that cement trucks move cements back and forth from a construction site, and the cement in the truck can be used to build house foundations, and it goes, as you said humorously, beep, 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 beep. You can have the child do that as you read along with the book. Oh, and on the next page, Ethan asks the reader, "You want to see more trucks?" And I like how Ethan is relating to the reader. "You want to see more trucks? I've showed you some. Here are some more." And of course, he's delighted that the reader wants to see more trucks. But this time it's a tractor. And the tractors can dig up dirt and move it all around. Oh, the next page has a garbage truck. And I like the illustrations. In this picture, Ethan is seen driving the garbage truck. And in the background, the garbage truck is on the street. In the background, there's a row of colorful townhouses, and each one a bright color, and it's really spectacular page.
And they look like crayons almost.
The color is spectacular in this. And if a parent or caregiver is reading the book to the child, here's the chance to stop and ask about the various colors. What color is that house? Can you tell me where the red house is? Whatever. Then on to the next page, and there is Ethan in a dump truck. I think a dump truck has to be one of the favorite toys of many children. So much you can do with a trunk, and you can have pretend play. Oh, I'll tell you a quick little story. My mother took me to take piano lessons when I was very young, 5, 6, and we went to the piano teacher's house, and she had a small son, and he was in the living room where the piano was, playing with a truck, a small truck. And I was so absorbed with the truck that the piano lesson went right out. And my mother said, "Oh, just let him play with the truck." So I never did learn how to play the piano. But in hindsight, I did enjoy the trucks. Well, and I like the next truck. It's a recycling truck. And again, this gets some information in of recycling to make children aware of it. It's never too early to teach children about conservation, and that many items can be made into other things. And in the picture, Ethan is shown holding a bottle that could have been made from some recycled materials. Oh, then Ethan shows his tow truck and explains how he likes to move his racing cars around by towing it, and maybe to the racetrack. In all of these illustrations, Ethan is in the life-size version of one of his trucks or cars or race cars. It dawned on me that yes, the cars when you see him at the beginning of the book, he has all the little cars around him. The next page has him actually in one of those cars, pretending. But his favorite truck is a monster truck that can do tricks. It has big wheels. I think all kids love these, and can run over cars. And Ethan demonstrates how it can run over old cars, not in a nasty way, in a sort of a motor car rodeo way. You know, ever see one of those big wheel exhibits? That's what I think he's alluding to. And Ethan, of course, then adds the sound effects by saying vroom, vroom, vroom. And I think you can encourage the children reading the book to do that too, or the ones you're reading it to add the sound effects. Oh, and the last page of the story has Ethan sitting with all of his trucks, delighted that he's able to show them to the reader. And at the end, he says, well, I'll see you on our next adventure. And that's the book. It's a very short and sweet and delightful book. Oh, and you mentioned earlier that C. Jordan, it says that she's of Puerto Rico heritage and grew up in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And as a child, she had two goals. One, a dancer, and the other was to maybe write a book. Well, she did. A delightful book about Ethan's love of trucks. Oh, and the inspiration came from her own hyperactive son, whose name is Ethan. He loves trucks. Oh, and at the end, did you notice there is some bonus content at the end of the book?
There is.
You can get a free coloring book by going to authorcjordan.com. And there are tic-tac-toe games, match the number games, a maze, and guess the colors. And they're all just wonderful follow-up activities to the book. And so that is the overview of the book. I really liked it. It was a very fun read, and I could see. I'm going to try reading it to our youngest grandson. He was about the right age. He can't read yet. He's about the right age for trucks. He loves trucks, and try some of these little. Now, what color is that? He's good with his colors. But I am anxious to read the book to him. And it could be designed for children 2 to early elementary, right?
Or to the age of all the way to 41, because I'm turning 41 just in a couple of days. And this, I have to tell you, David, first of all, thank you for this wonderful share of Ethan's truck learning adventures. Is that there's several things to share to kind of add on to what you had beautifully communicated is that one of the things that has shifted quite a bit since, like, I know that I was growing up, remember that girls can do the same things that boys can do. So technically, you know, would a boy more resonate with this book, Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures? Yes, but it's not limited to that. So one of the things that C is very passionate about is that there's girls that grow up and they want to be a garbage woman or a tow truck driver or drive a monster truck. Interestingly enough, a well-known professional wrestler by the name of Medusa, who wrestled back many years ago, she actually drove a monster truck. That was what she did after she finished her world of professional wrestling. So what boys can do, girls can do as well too. I really love all of the colors in the book. It's very vibrant. So one of the things that kids pick up on is, especially if they're visual learners, if there's striking colors in there, can really capture their attention and keep their interest throughout the course of the whole book. It's a very... Go ahead.
I think it does. I think it does do that. I think the colors add to the whole story. You're right. It's fascinating to see it's a rainbow reading that book of sorts.
Yes, very much so.
It's a lovely book. Now, the illustrator is, do you have the name of the illustrator?
C has had a wonderful team working with her in the process to the point where she actually has other activity books on her end of things as well too. I did want to mention as well is the descriptions of each of the trucks. they're very simplistic to where, little ones may want to know, like, who are maybe just kind of starting to learn and to integrate about motor skills and comprehension. What does a tow truck do? So you hear the term tow truck. What does a tow truck do? So it's a very kid-friendly description where the little one is able to process it and integrate it very quickly. And there's such a variety of trucks as well too. And one of the things, like, I can almost empathize and connect with Ethan, because this was almost like me when I was growing up. Now, I did have trucks, but I know I had like Ninja Turtles. They had the old, I don't know if you remember from the 1980s and 90s, they had the starting lineup collectible figures.
Oh yes, I remember those
ones. I had the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I had Pee-wee's Playhouse. I would always line up my figures. And whenever people would come into my room, I would be like, hey, here's Leonardo of the Ninja Turtles, all right? Or here's my Tonka truck. But again, just going back to one of the biggest, brightest, boldest memories for me in childhood was my yellow Tonka truck cement mixer. So when I saw that in here, it just really, it really brought a smile to my face. And Ethan has this very loving personality. It kind of like reminded me almost like whenever Mr. Rogers would come through the door and he would start off episodes of The Neighborhood, he would encourage people. He'd, put on his sweater, he'd take off his shoes, and he'd put on his sneakers, and he would just have this wonderful vibe, like, we're going to have a great time today. And you can tell, like, Ethan is kind of like, welcome to my neighborhood. Here's
in a way, yes.
I'm really excited to be here. So again, for a smaller children's book, it packs a big punch, and there's so much good, especially when it comes to the theme of talking about exploration, curiosity, and discovering new things. I really love those themes, which are really important for little ones as they begin to grow up in the process.
And the pretending you're a truck driver, a race car driver, and so forth. And there's one episode that in our program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that he was showing trucks. But instead of actually showing the toy truck, he brought blocks of wood in. In other words, you really don't even have to buy a toy truck. You can create your own by drawing the wheels on the blocks and so forth. It can be that simple. It's the pretend play that I think is the most important. And also the person who is reading this book to the child, I think that is the bond is the important thing. The bond between the reader, the adult reader, and the young child. So important. And also you were mentioning about a girl's book or a boy's book, and I think it's for everybody. And if I would read this to our granddaughter. She's a little old now. She would, a 13-year-old wouldn't have me read it to her, but I would read it to either a girl or a boy and not make any distinction. Just read it.
Agreed. And I'm really glad that we're especially sharing this during the back to school season, because I can only imagine, kids that are starting preschool or who are starting kindergarten for the first point in time and they're meeting new friends. What are some of the things that they can bond over? Oh, you've got a dump truck. Oh, I've got a tow truck, right? So this can help kids to be able to create conversations, make new friends. So it's a great back to school resource, especially for educators to be able to bring kids together in the process. So we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, you can head on over to C. Jordan's official website, which is authorcjordan.com that David had alluded to earlier. You can also head on over to Amazon.com. You can purchase your copy of Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures. You can also leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so. That's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for C to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books and those who love trucks in the process as well too. And while on Amazon, while on C's official website, she also has some wonderful activity books for little ones. So again, as you mentioned at the end of the book, David, there's those activities that were part of Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures. The fun, the adventure, the discovery continues with her other activity books as well too. And also you can head on over to your favorite local library or your favorite children's or independent bookstore. If they do not have C's book, Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures, make a recommendation that they do so to be able to stock it for the back to school season and the upcoming holiday season. So David, the trolley's been racking up some miles. We've gone from San Diego, Pittsburgh, down to Tampa, and then we head to the beautiful area of Pembroke, North Carolina, where we are now sharing Little Curly Susie by Suzette Oxendine. And I just have to say, first off, is just, you know, the characters that we're sharing here on this month's episode of the Bookcast. You've got Ethan, who is this excited, almost rambunctious, in a good way though.
Yes.
You know, little boy who's really excited about his trucks. And then you have a girl named Susie who really just wants to fit in. And just like, you know, all of us, we all want to fit in. And this is a really beautiful story about helping little ones learn to be able to accept themselves. This goes back to, and you heard this, I'm sure, hundreds, if not thousands of times when you spend time with Fred, with Mr. Rogers. He would always say that I like you and I love you just the way that you are. He was reminding in his own way, just like Suzette is. This is why she's doing her part to blaze her own trail, but keeping the torch lit for Fred by reminding children that they can accept themselves just the way that they are.
That's right. Little Curly Susie's. Suzette did a great job on this book, starting out with describing a little Susie. She didn't like her brown, beautiful, bouncy curls. She didn't like her curls because they bounced with every step she took. And she didn't like that. And the curls poked out from under her ball cap, and she didn't like that. And what she seemed to dislike about her curls, they became frizzy while she was playing soccer, what Susie calls a good game of soccer, and her curls annoyed her as she was playing it, so she didn't like them. Well, one day while Susie was playing soccer, and trying to tuck her curls under her cap, a girl from the team, Tina Kalina is her name, came over and said, "You can always straighten your hair if it bothers you so much." Well, that was easy for Tina to say because she had perfectly straight, long hair and seemed to enjoy teasing Susie about her curly hair, because Tina was always whirling around her hair, and I think Susie wished she could do that too, I think. But Tina did give Susie an idea. A light bulb goes off, and then there's a picture of the idea over Susie's head with a light bulb, the classic idea sketch. And well, as soon as the soccer game was over, Susie ran home. Her mother asked her how the game was, and Susie said, "Well, we won, and will supper be ready soon?" Okay, it'll be ready, Susie. I'm going upstairs. She ran up to her room, thinking iron, straight, iron. The iron was in her mom's room. And I have to be quiet, she thought to herself. She anxiously waited for the indicator light on the iron to turn green. Oh yes, and I'll get the ironing board. And quietly she set up everything, and she stretched her curls on the ironing board and reached for the iron. But her mother intervened. "Susie, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm trying to straighten my hair." "Susie, this is not the iron used to straighten your hair, and not the way to do it. I want my curls straight." She was adamant to have her curls straight. Susie, they bothered her. And her mom asked why she disliked her curls so much. "They get frizzy and they poke out from my cap," and Susie started to cry. "Why can't I have straight hair?" "Susie, get my Bible," said Mom. And then she opened the Bible to Genesis. Now, this book is one of the first faith-based books we've had. I think one of this book, but it really has a lesson. And from this point on, and this is what Mom was reading to Susie from Genesis 1:27. And so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. And then Susie says, in a humorous way, well, does God have curly hair too? Oh, let's read this verse. Psalms 139:14 said Mom. And here's what she read. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are well made, and I know that full well. And Mon goes on to explain that God made each of us in his own image. He designed you the way you are before you were born, from your brown curly hair down to your toes, which is very reassuring. I think
I agree wholeheartedly.
And Mom reassuringly tells Susie that God doesn't want us to be upset about things that we don't like about ourselves. But what he does want, which is important, is for us to trust him in all of his creations and his designs for each of us. And Mom's continued to reassure Susie that instead of fretting over your brown curls, embrace them. And know that God made them especially for you. That's interesting. And know God made them especially for you. And I think that got through to Susie. And in the last paragraph, Susie looked into the mirror in her mom's room and examined the curls closely. And the last sentence of the book, Susie has a big smile, and Susie says, curls, schmurls, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Mm-hmm. And that's the book. And again, as you're reading this book to a child, you can stop all the way along the way and just re-emphasize some of the quotes from the Bible, ask her to tell a little bit more about why the curls bother her. It's a great chance for family communication, so to speak. And I like the book. The Susie it has a touch of humor in it too. You know, curls, schmurls, and does God have curly hair? They're light touches, but it all works in the whole.
It all weaves its way together. Even one of my favorite funny references is where she's thinking, okay, I have to straighten my hair. I'm going to use the iron, which we used to like iron our shirts and things of that nature. But there is the curling iron. If you're looking at straightening your hair, there's a specific kind of iron that it was created to be able to utilize. One of the things, David, just kind of like peeling the veil back about myself. I was born and raised Catholic. I classify myself as more spiritual, but I have reconnected with my Catholic roots over the course of these past several months. So, one of the things is that if one feels that they are religious or, resonates, it has some form of a connection with God, the Bible is a source of reassurance, and it can really bring in a lot of faith in the process. So, many parents that are out there, they will turn to the good book, as it's often called, and they will go to scripture. So there are two specific passages that you had mentioned, the one from Genesis and the one from Psalms, I believe. And I feel, again, one of the things, this is always a little bit of a Mr. Rogers history lesson, so to speak, on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, is that Mr. Rogers, he was a Presbyterian minister. Now, when you guys did the program, he didn't come across as, bless me, Father, for I have sinned, or, God and Jesus. Even though he believed that himself, he knew that those who were watching would get it in the way in which he was communicating. So he found a way to be able to share the message that he incorporated with his faith, and he weaved that into a beautiful way that all children would understand, whether families were Catholic or Jewish or Muslim or Protestant He was big about making sure that kids felt accepted and loved. And I really love how Susie is actually doing that, because one of the biggest things that kids struggle with is self-love, self-confidence, and self-esteem. This leads to kids getting bullied. This even leads to children committing suicide. So at the end of the day, if there's more resources of care, I go back to when Mr. Rogers communicated with Senator Pastore, and he classified what he did through the neighborhood, what you guys did for many decades, as a resource of care. One of the calling cards with the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast over these past 18 months is that children's books out there now, especially the ones that we cover, are resources of care, like Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures and like Little Curly Susie as well.
Yeah, and the passages that Mom quotes from the Bible can be there. It's wisdom. It applies to any the certain passages she quotes is really wisdom. I think it can apply to anybody, as you said earlier, to almost any religion. And I think it helps Susie a lot. And it is very important to feel good about yourself. That's where because if you don't feel good about yourself, it sort of blocks learning. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the children who can't struggle with reading, you could go beyond that and find what might be bothering them. There might be some emotional thing that's blocking that struggle to read. And I think feeling good about yourself and that's what Mr. Rogers did with every program. He always stressed, I like you as you are, and which means like yourself as you are. And I think Susie learned that lesson, I think.
Liking yourself into loving yourself. And yes, by the end of the book, Susie is appreciating the fact that she's perfect and that she's loved and that she's wonderful, just the way that she is, and will forever be. I also love one of the universal themes is the cover arts. The first thing that parents and kids and educators, those who love great children's books, see is the cover arts. And with Little Curly Susie, you've got Susie. She's excited. She's a soccer player. She's on the field. You got the big ball of sun behind her, and she's just so excited to be playing soccer. So one of the things that I really also love about the book is that Suzette made Susie a very relatable character. There's a lot of young girls out there that are playing sports, and that's really how they do their part to be able to connect with friends. But also, again, when you're on a football team or basketball team or a soccer team, you can have bullies, or maybe people that you don't necessarily want to call them bullies, but they just might pick on someone because they don't necessarily understand them. It's kind of like an old thought process, maybe, so to speak. I also want to give some credit to Suzette, because I know one of the things that with many of the authors, the dozens of authors that we've had the opportunities to share their books here and review them on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, it's not always easy when you're a children's author because you have to juggle many hats. So Suzette, she's a pastor's wife, she's a mother of 4 boys, she's a worship leader, she's a Bible teacher, and she's also a physician's assistant. And she carved the time out, and she believed in herself to be able to, with the wonderful team at Author House, by the way, they did a great job in putting the book together with the illustrations as well. So she has many hats to wear, but she put her faith in herself to realize, I have a beautiful message. I have a light that needs to be shared to empower children to learn to accept themselves and remember that they're whole and healthy and complete just as they are. So, props to Suzette on this, because she definitely has a lot on her plate, but she knew the importance of sharing this book.
That's right. And I think this book especially would be very helpful for a teacher to read to a class too. I could see this being read, well, they both could, but this especially being read to a class. And again, I like to be able to stop and ask questions about what is being on the page, and see how children react to it, whether it's in a class or just your own son or daughter. And see how they react to it, and the questions they may ask too. At any rate, Little Curly Susie was the two books we've just gone over are really complement each other. I think, again, boys or girls could read Little Curly Susie, and girls can read Ethan's Truck Learning. And I would never make a distinction as a parent or a caregiver. I'd just pick it up, not care, and read it to either a boy or a girl, because it's the lesson, the
Very
lessons
true.
that are important in it, and they both come through. And it was, but I never played. Yes, I did. I did play soccer 1 year at camp, and I was terrible. But at any rate, I'm glad she picked a sport, and a sport, and girls in sports too is a wonderful lesson that girls can do what boys can do, and vice versa too.
Exactly.
That's a lesson that everybody can do what they want to do. You don't have to play sports, but if you want to, you're perfectly capable of doing so. And I would encourage anybody to do it. And I'd encourage parents or caregivers or librarians who's ever watching our bookcast to add these books to their collection. I think they're a wonderful addition to any library or book collection or whatever.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, David. So for our listeners, viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow Shining Stars, if you have enjoyed our share of Little Curly Susie, you can head on over to Suzette's official website along with Amazon.com. While on Amazon, if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave a 5-star review for Little Curly Susie if you feel guided to do so. That's one of the many ways you can pledge your support for Suzette and the wonderful team at Author House. Let Suzette know that she's doing much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books in the process. Of course, you can also head on over, as you mentioned, David, to your favorite local library or children's or independent bookstore to see if they have their copy of Little Curly Susie. If not, kindly request that they do, because one of the things I also wanted to mention before we begin to wind down our time, David, is that you mentioned about Little Curly Susie being read in a classroom setting. And I feel that it's all about setting the tone, I feel. Mm-hmm. If you're a parent, if you're an educator, how can you set the tone for this to be a wonderful school year where everyone grows and learns and everyone is acknowledged, appreciated, valued, and accepted? And I can just envision, that you take the time as a teacher and you dedicate time to reading this right at the start of the back to school season. So if anyone feels that they're being picked on, or maybe there's that bully that don't know that they're being the bully, and they can kind of sit with themselves and be like, man, maybe there's another way. Maybe I can, this book is showing me how I can start to accept other people that look different from me, that sound different from me, that like other things that I don't necessarily like, but to at least have a greater appreciation of all of that. So yeah, this is a real good. I love the fact and how these books can especially help kids connect, so that there's more connection and less divide and less bullying as well too. So yes, we hear the school bell and we hear the trolley.
Oh,
so
okay.
We know that means that it is time to go. But David, I know that I am super duper excited, which by the way, before we mention why I'm super duper excited and why you're super duper excited. If you have loved episode number 18 of the Bookcast, this has been one of our favorite trolley stops to this point in time. Raise your hand if you have had fun, by the way, on episode number 18 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast.
I'll raise my hand.
We see David's hands, my hands, the hands from the little ones on screen. Mission accomplished, job well done. If you have enjoyed episode number 18 of the Bookcast, if you feel that this message could benefit someone, whether it be a little one in your life, or maybe if it's a parent or an educator who's looking for some great back to school resources and children's books for their little ones, maybe you're just doing your part to reconnect with your own inner child, just like I recently did after reading Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures with my favorite Tonka cement mixer growing up. If you haven't had the opportunities to do so, to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel, to share this very special trolley stop that has been episode number 18 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. But David, as I mentioned, I'm excited. You're excited because the next time that we meet, it will not be through the two squares on a screen. I am going to be headed back, not on a trolley, a metaphoric trolley, but on a flight from San Diego over to Pittsburgh, not only for the month of September, but for the month of October as well, as part of our back to school season here at PR from the Heart and the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We want to give some a shout out to the wonderful team at the Center for Media Innovation at Point Park University in downtown Pittsburgh. We're going to be recording 2 brand new episodes of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. So if you wonder, like, what does it look like when John and David are together in person? You can head back to episode, I believe it was 14 of the Bookcast, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, where we had the opportunities to interview Dr. Charisse Roth and, of course, talk about her wonderful children's book series, the Real Doctor series for kids. What's a real doctor and what does a real doctor look like, David? So I know that I am excited to see you again, and we're going to be spending some more quality time during the fall. I might actually be able to see some, in the words of one of my favorite John Denver songs, falling leaves, because here on the West Coast, we don't see trees losing their leaves, but I'm going to be able to experience that Indian summer, early fall in Pittsburgh. And I'm actually super excited about that.
Well, I'll bring a rake for you. You can do our front lawn.
I might actually take you up on that should the time permit and allow. But yes, this is going to be such a wonderful time. We're going to be sharing some great new books for the back to school season, because sooner than we know it, the holiday season is going to be rolling around. So if you are a children's author and if you would like to have your brand new children's book be featured and reviewed on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you can head on over to PR from the Heart's, our official website at prfromtheheart.com, or you can connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at PR from the Heart. We have, of course, a couple tips of the cap as well that we like to be able to mention to one of our favorite neighbors here in San Diego, Laura Kavanaugh, who is the host and executive producer of San Diego Living, which is, of course, the official home of Empowering Reads for Kids, the official television book review segment that airs on the CW San Diego CBS 8. So if you are a children's author and would love for Laura and I to be able to share your brand new heartfelt children's book on a forthcoming edition of Empowering Reads for Kids, to be able to share and connect with more children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books in America's finest city, you can head on over to our official website at prfromtheheart.com. Also, a tip of the cap to some of our favorite neighbors, just literally almost down the street here in San Diego at Unity Church of El Cajon. Each and every month, we have brand new episodes of the Unity of El Cajon Story Time with Mr. John, presented by PR from the Heart. One of our favorite ways that we can give back even further to children, especially in the San Diego area. So if you're interested in me as Mr. John being able to share your brand new children's book in a forthcoming edition of the Unity of El Cajon Storytime, Unity of El Cajon Storytime with Mr. John, of course, presented by PR from the Heart, you can connect with us via our official website. And we're really looking forward to all of the wonderful magic and miracles that happen this fall leading into the holiday season through PR from the Heart Storytime with Mr. John series, which takes place the second Saturday of every month at Glen Park here in San Diego. David, having the opportunity, I have to share this. One of the activities that we did with the little ones here as part of a summer installment of the Storytime with Mr. John series, we actually created our own empathy rocks. So we actually took glitter glue, and there's a beautiful beach and park out in San Diego called the Torrey Pines Nature Preserve. And I literally took a shopping bag to the beach, 2 shopping bags, and I put about 24 of these in the bags. And so this one right here says dreams come true. And so I actually want to give a little mention to one of our favorite neighbors who always stays in touch with us here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast and PR from the Heart. One of our neighbors, Tristan, he actually made this empathy rock. This is his way of expressing his creativity and showing the ocean and the clouds. So he actually wanted me to keep this here in my office. So Tristan, this is a promise to you as well. And I have to share this other empathy rock that was created. I love this one. It just simply says, be kind. And you see the three numbers on there, David? It says 143. And that's, of course, the wonderful way. So just again, during the back to school season, there's just so many different ways that you can, whether you're a parent or you're an educator, to be able to give back and to help and to be of service. So also, if you are a children's author and you would like to see how we can be of service to you, to be able to help you get the message of your children's book out during the back to school season and during the holiday season, to create a book media tour in a city of your choosing, to create a featured television interview or interviews in the process. And for more information on our Children's Book Spotlight series, which is actually celebrating its 4-year anniversary next month, you can schedule your courtesy discovery call by heading on over to prfromtheheart.com. David, what have you learned today and this month during episode number 18 of the Bookcast?
Oh boy, I have learned so much, but I learned that this book brought back, the truck book, brought back all of my love for the toy truck. I can envision myself as a 5-year-old again with all of my truck collection. I really love that. Both books were wonderful, and I think, and I hope that people who watch the Bookcast realize how important books are for children, and the important part is reading to that child. The connection that books can make between the reader and the child, I think, is the most important thing. And that's how I think reading is instilled. It's instilled by the love of the reader for the child, and vice versa.
I 100% agree, David. And this is, we've had a lot of fun on this Bookcast, but again, fear not, because there are many more magical trolley stops to come, especially with episode number 19 and episode number 20 in the month of September and October, that will be emanating from the Center for Media Innovation in downtown Pittsburgh. But again, we want to show some love one more time. The brand new children's books, courtesy of, starting with C. Jordan's Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures and Suzette Oxendine's Little Curly Susie, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Author House. They're both now available. You can head on over to C's and Suzette's official websites, included in the description below, along with Amazon.com if that's easier for you. And you can leave 5-star reviews if you feel guided to do so for Ethan's Truck Learning Adventures and Little Curly Susie. That's just one of the many ways that you can pledge your support to let C and Suzette know that they're doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books. And of course, again, if you head on over to your favorite local library or children's or independent bookstore, you can highly recommend that they stock the books if they do not currently have them in stock as well. It's just one of the many ways, again, that you can connect also with your community and get these messages out there that are very much needed, especially during the back to school season, with the little ones learning more, exploring more, and becoming more confident within themselves. So again, we hope that you have had fun. We want to thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, your continued support of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. You are fueling this trolley that fuels this Neighborly Reviews Bookcast each and every month. So your continued support, whether it be through a like, through a share, through a retweet on social media, by purchasing these authors' books that we've been sharing over the past year and a half. There's many different ways that you can pledge your support, but however you feel guided to do so, we want to thank you for your continued support as well, for your continued support of all of the children's authors and illustrators, such as C and Suzette, who are doing, again, wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, and educators, those who love great children's books. And of course, for all of your continued support of children's bookstores, independent bookstores, and local libraries, who are truly the pillars of our community. We also want to give one final tip of the cap to some of our favorite neighbors in Pittsburgh at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. Again, each and every month, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast is proud to make a contribution to Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. And you might be wondering, well, what is Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, you may ask? It is the Pittsburgh chapter of the largest national non-for-profit children's organization in the United States, children's literacy organization in the U.S., and they provide children's books, developmental resources, educational tools for children, parents, and families that come from low-income neighborhoods, specifically in the Pittsburgh area. And again, did you know that last year alone, Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh gave over 100,000 children's books to over 23,000 in children need? They can't do this without the support of the community and without the support of their fellow neighbors. So just as we here at PR from the Heart and the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast feel guided to contribute as we are able to each and every month, we encourage you to do so if you feel guided. So you can head on over to rifpittsburgh.org/donate. We've included the description, the link below to the Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh website. And again, no donation is too large, no donation is too small in the process. So we want to thank Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh for all the great work that they are doing in the process. And of course, we want to give one final tip of the cap to, of course, one of the proud men that David spent many years with during his time. He was the captain of the ship, so to speak. He was the captain of Mike. If Mike the tough little tugboat had a captain, it would be Mr. Rogers, needless to say.
That's right.
So again, in his own ways, whether it be through the neighborhood, whether it be through talks, commencement speeches at colleges, whether it be even when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmy Awards shortly before he passed from stomach cancer, he always encouraged us all to not only remember those who helped love us into being, but he reminded all of us that we're loved, we're special, we're whole, we're healthy, we're complete, just the way that we are. In his own private numerology, 143, just as you saw in the empathy rock, meant I love you. So the little tip of the cap to, of course, Mr. Rogers. Our favorite numbers here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast are 243. As there's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. That is our reminder that you are loved, you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that you are perfect, you are special, just the way that you are. The message that's also reinforced in little curly Susie. So again, for David Newell, for myself, John Massalonis, this has been episode number 18 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We look forward to seeing all of you, our friends and neighbors, our listeners and viewers, and our fellow shining stars, to connect with us over the next 2 bookcasts, as we will be emanating from the Center for Media Innovation at the beautiful campus of Point Park University in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We will see all of you for episode number 19 and 20 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast as the back to school season continues here at PR from the Heart. And for all of you who have been also sending some beautiful birthday wishes, I know that shortly after, shortly after this bookcast episodes, I'll be celebrating my 41st birthday. So thank you for all of your support, your kind wishes. They really mean a lot to me, as PR from the Heart has just celebrated its 8-year anniversary as well too. Being able to talk with David and to be with him on the bookcast and just sharing all of these different wonderful heartfelt messages. It really means a lot to me to know that there's this great support in the process, and that we're doing something that many people are taking note of, and they're really integrating these resources of care, these wonderful and heartfelt children's books that we have the blessing of sharing through PR from the Heart in the process. So thank you for all the birthday wishes. 41, let's make it the best year ever to date, shall we? So again, for David Newell, for myself, John Massalonis, thank you once again for joining us here on episode number 18 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. Thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, for children's authors and illustrators all around the world, for local libraries, children's and independent bookstores, but above all else, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. It's time to have some birthday cake, David. We'll see you next month in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
We'll talk to you soon.